Welcome to our webinar, Reality Check, What to Expect from Automated Conversions to eBook. On behalf of Data Conversion Laboratory and Information Today, we are happy that you're able to join us. We realize your time is very important, and we think we have a presentation that will be well worth the investment of the next hour. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded, and along with the questions and answers that you ask at the end of the presentation, those will be posted and made available to you. And ladies and gentlemen, I am going to have to hold on for a second. I'm getting a pop-up note that says the connection to the webinar server has been lost. Please check your network connection. Oh, bother. Our speakers will be taking your questions at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please enter it in the question box on your webinar control panel. You'll see it down at the very bottom. And finally, during the presentation, you will have the opportunity to respond to some poll questions. So your participation will help the speaker tailor the presentation to your needs. Now, if you recall, we asked a couple of questions during the registration process. The first was, how many eBooks do you foresee doing in the next 24 months? And most of you said less than 10. And then it was a fairly even distribution between none, more than 25, or 10 to 25. The other question we asked was, what has been your experience with eBooks? And the great majority of you said none, just investigating. But there was also a good smattering of occasional, well, you've tried it but haven't had much success. You publish eBooks on a regular basis, and it took some tweaking of your materials, but you finally got it to work. So without any further ado, I would like to bring on Mark Gross of Data Conversion Laboratory to tell us a little bit about what they have to offer, and then we're going to get into Ms. Bloom's presentation. And if I can unmute Mark. Mark, you should be on.
Okay, thank you, Don, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Just as a quick summary of the agenda that we're going to be going through over here. I'm going to do a very quick introduction to eBooks, just to bring everybody up to the same page, so that we're on common ground. A short discussion on the difference between ePub and Mobi and some other formats might be there, and then we talk about conversions from HTML and PDF. I guess an important part of this webinar is talking about the limitations of automated conversions, and what things can be done automatically, what things you need to be watching out for, and a suggested approach, some ideas that we have about how conversions should be done, and finally a discussion of the things to keep in mind with special content. It's one thing to be bringing across text. It's another thing to be bring over math and tables and graphics and things like that. So, the last part of this webinar is going to go through some specific examples, which hopefully will help you come up with the things that you need to keep in mind. Quickly about DCL. I'm not going to read everything off over here. You can see it. We've been around for a while, well before eBooks, although there were things called eBooks back in 1981 also. They look a little different and a little clunkier, but we've been in this business for 30 years. We've been involved in some of the early technology as well as the latest technologies that we're working on now. And there was expertise in eBooks, tech docs, and all kinds of other things. We have a lot of, and you can see we've been involved in a lot of different industries, all the industries where information needs to be delivered. That's the thing. That's the place we've been involved in. Today, eBooks really crosses across many lines. It's not just the books that you buy that you download and buy, but just about every industry is turning towards using eBooks. So I think it's important for just about everybody right now. And we have a poll question, so I'm going to turn that over to Don.
All right. Thank you, Mark. The first question is, how important are eBooks to your organization and your customers? So if you could please select one. We've given you 4 options. Not a big deal yet. It's starting to come up in conversations. It's important, and we're working on an ebook process. We have a process to create ebooks that works. And roughly 2/3 of you have voted. So we'll keep this open for another, maybe let's say, 10 or 15 seconds. If you haven't voted, give it a little pause. So I'm going to try and close this poll since we're coming up on a minute. And wow. Mark, I can read the answers to you.
Yeah, please do.
43% says it's important and we're working on it. 38% says it is starting to come up in conversations. 11% say it's not a big deal yet. And 8% say we have a process to create ebooks that works. Any thoughts on that?
Okay, well, so I think that shows you where things are going. Almost 90% have either are working with it, have things going on, or know that it's going to be coming up very soon. I think that's a pretty important, that tells you a lot about what's going on in the industry, where I think, you know, if you looked at this poll 2 years ago, it would be well less than half of people who had those kind of numbers. So it definitely is important. And this certainly important to our audience out there.
Right.
Is another poll question also, Don?
Yes, sir. We have a second poll question, and that is, what format is most of your content in? Because I suspect that during the presentation we'll get into it, but the format that you're coming from is very has a profound impact on how easy, how hard it is to go create ebooks. But what format is your content in? The choices are InDesign, markup languages being HTML or XHTML, XML, PDF, or something else. And we'll keep this open for another 15 seconds or so. And thank you if you voted. We're up to 75, 80% of you have voted. And I am going to close the poll. And Mark, the answers were half of our audience are saying PDF, and then XML is roughly 16%, InDesign roughly 16%, HTML or XHTML 8%, and something else is 11%. So roughly half of the folks are saying PDF, and and another 25% are saying HTML or XML.
Right. Okay. That's also interesting. That roughly correlates with what we actually see coming in over here to our office. So I think that's it's good to get some confirmation. And PDF certainly is by far the bulk of it. I guess because that's the easiest one. That's the final form that many people are dealing with. So we're going to talk about all of those. But for now, I think PDF is the one that gets the most is going to get the most attention. Just moving to a quick introduction to eBooks, and so very much a summary. ePub is the two formats people talk about now: ePub and Mobi. And ePub is sort of like for everybody else, and it's an emerging standard, and more of the people producing readers are picking up on that. There are are variations on ePub. It's not all the same, and we're going to see some of that as we go along. And Mobi is also a very large player, but it's really only being used by Amazon Kindle. But of course, that is a large player. That certainly is a large player. ePub is an evolving standard, as I said, which means that things are improving as we go along. We'll see that many things today for complex books are not covered today, are not covered in the ePub standard, but we expect over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, which is forever in this industry, we'll be seeing more and more things that are being included. And it's supported by many different readers. And I guess the overall theme over here is that eBooks are publications, and just like people really take note of the publication when they go to paper, you know, your name is on the line when it goes on to an ebook also. And I think that's something that's not quite recognized in much of the industry today by some of the ebooks that you download a lot of times. But I think more and more as people get more professionally involved, we're going to see that producing an ebook really does need the same level of attention and production that real books do. Also, there are no silver bullets. I mean, there are a lot of things we're going to talk about that improve the process and get you to a much better point, but I think you'll see that fully automated conversions are very difficult to do for anything more than the simplest kind of materials. And with that, I'll turn it over to Don to introduce Devorah.
Right. Well, thank you, Mark. And as we've mentioned, we're very fortunate to have an accomplished speaker on our webinar today, Ms. Devorah Bloom. Devorah is an expert in ebook conversion at Data Conversion Laboratory, a company specializing in the conversion of paper and electronic materials to ebooks, HTML, and XML. She has been with DCL for almost 10 years, managing ebook conversions as well as a variety of our other complex conversion efforts. Prior to DCL, Devorah worked with an earlier generation of ebooks as an ebook coding expert in the Barnes & Noble Digital Content Division. So without any further delay, please welcome Devorah Bloom. Devorah?
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with the question, what is ePub? According to the IDPF, the International Digital Publishing Forum, ePub is defined by 3 open standard specifications: the Open Publication Structure, or the OPS, the Open Packaging Format, the OPF, and the Open Container Format, the OCF. The OPS contains the actual content of the publication. This is the guts of the publication, the chapters, the sections, etc., all written in XHTML. The OPF describes and lists the content included in the publication. It lists the HTML files, the image files, etc. It also contains the metadata of the publication and lists the reading order of the publication. The OCF describes the directory structure. It's a clear-to-mind type, telling the reading software what this publication is. And what it is actually a zip file. What that means is that if you change the extension of the ePub to a .zip, you can then open it up using any other file. So having said that, when we talk about using automated tools to convert to ePub, we have to differentiate what are we converting from. If you already have your content in HTML for web publication, this can be a pretty seamless conversion, since as we mentioned, the actual content is written in XHTML. However, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind. When you're displaying content on the web, you're generally dealing with a large computer screen, and with that, the ability to scroll from side to side. On an e-reading device, however, you don't have that ability. You're dealing with a smaller screen size. This comes into play specifically if your content includes large tables. Another issue is that internet browsers have really good support of many character sets, while the reading devices don't. Parenthetically, I recently encountered an issue with this. The Adobe Reading Systems, which is used by a number of reading devices such as ADE, Adobe Digital Editions, the Sony Reader, and the Barnes & Noble Nook, say that they support the Hebrew character set, and they do. However, as some of you may know, Hebrew is read from right to left as opposed from left to right. So while the reader does support the